Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, Salam Kebajikan. Good day and welcome everyone to this international guest lecture. On behalf of the Faculty of Psychology Universitas Merdeka Malang, I would like to extend a warm welcome to all of you for taking the time to attend this event. It gives me great pleasure to be the anchor for this agenda, and I am excited to be hosting it. I would like to take a moment to express our immense gratitude to the Honorable Vice Rector of Universitas Merdeka Malang, Dr. Soekardi MSI, Dean of Faculty of Psychology, Dr. Nawangwarsi Wulandari SPSI MSI Psikolog, our speaker, Nino Gugushvili PhD, and all guests or participants. Without their support, we will not be here today. We are truly thankful for their efforts and contribution toward this event. Okay, for the audience, we have exciting speakers for you today, and we hope that you will find the presentation and discussion informative and engaging. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the lecture. Before we begin, I'd like to take a few moments to explain the rules for today's lecture. The first rule, please make sure that your cell phone are on silent mode or switch off, so we don't disturb the speakers and the other attendees. We encourage you all to participate in the discussion and ask questions related to the lecture topic during the Q&A session at the end of the session. Please make sure you keep your question brief and to the point to allow for a productive discussion. We request our attendees to refrain from any side conversation during the lecture, as it can be distracting for the other participant. We hope that you will adhere to these rules and participate fully in the lecture. Thank you for your cooperation. Without further ado, let's begin the agenda. We are honored to host this seminar today, and we would like to start this session by inviting everyone to pray, so our event will be blessed and run successfully. Pray begins. Okay, thank you. Next, we would like to invite the Dean of the Faculty of Psychology, Universitas Merdeka Malang, to give her welcome remarks. Please welcome Dr. Nawangwarsi Wulandari, SPSI MSI Psikolog.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat siang dan salam sejahtera bagi kita semua. Hari ini saya, walaupun kita kuliah tamu internasional, pesannya Pak. Untung saya menyampaikan sambutan dengan menggunakan bahasa Indonesia saja supaya nggak kaget. Yang saya hormati Bapak Wakil Rektor 1, Dr. Soekardi MSI, yang saya hormati Nino Gugushvili PhD, narasumber dan teman-teman panitia serta yang berbahagia para mahasiswa Fakultas Psikologi Universitas Merdeka Malang. Alhamdulillah, puji syukur kehadirat Allah, pada siang hari ini kita akhirnya bisa bertemu kembali di ruang PPI dalam kegiatan International Guest Lecture. Ini adalah event pertama internasional kita, dan pada event pertama ini kita mengangkat tema tentang social media and mental health. Seperti yang sudah sering kalian perhatikan di media, bahwa akhir-akhir ini isu kesehatan mental itu banyak sekali diangkat. Dan salah satu faktor yang memiliki kontribusi yang besar terhadap kesehatan mental kita adalah sosial media. Banyak penelitian yang sudah dilakukan untuk mengetahui apa kaitan dari sosial media dan kesehatan mental ini. Aktivitas kita di sosial media saat ini cukup tinggi ya. Tidak ada yang bisa menghindari media sosial. Di satu sisi itu sangat memudahkan kita di dalam berinteraksi, di dalam bekerja, tetapi kita tidak bisa pungkiri bahwa itu juga berdampak pada perubahan perilaku. Banyak perilaku-perilaku yang berubah dengan semakin intensnya kita beraktivitas di sosial media. Banyak juga hal-hal yang negatif yang terjadi, misalnya cyberbullying, termasuk juga untuk kesehatan mental kita. Maka pada hari ini kita akan mendengarkan sharing dari narasumber di luar sana mengenai sosial media dan mental health. Sebagai informasi Pak WR1 bahwa ini adalah kegiatan pertama kami di internasional. Mudah-mudahan setelah ini kita akan bisa melakukan atau mengadakan event-event internasional yang lain ya. Dan nanti jangan ragu-ragu untuk bertanya, untuk mengajukan pertanyaan, memberikan tanggapan terhadap pada narasumbernya. Mumpung ada narasumber yang dari lingkup internasional bisa sharing dengan kita ya. Kalau misalnya nanti masih ada yang belum pede dengan menggunakan bahasa Inggris, gunakan saja pakai bahasa Indonesia, nanti pasti akan dibantu oleh Pak Untung sebagai moderator. Saya rasa itu yang bisa saya sampaikan. Sekali lagi kalian ikuti dengan baik international guest lecture kita pada siang hari ini. Terima kasih. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Nawang. Our next agenda will be opening remarks. We would like to invite the Vice Rector of Universitas Merdeka Malang. Please welcome Dr. Soekardi, MSI.
Baik, terima kasih Saudara MC. Thank you very much Pak Untung, Bu Nawang, also all student psychology faculty. I would like to say thank you very much for the event today, and especially for Bu Nawang and Pak Untung and also Bu Altuba, which the event today make possible. And before I speak next, I would like to say thank you Pak Rektor Profesor Anwar Sanusi, and also Dean and Vice Dean Psychology Faculty at Merdeka University, special guest Mr. Nino Gugusville, PhD, postdoctoral students, research at Maastricht University, the Netherlands. And to the society, the prevalence of social media has become an integral part of human existence. Particularly the Gen Z demographic will first in digital living, navigates numerous aspects of life through digital means, from making friends, selecting education, choice, custom, and choose food or weekends without social media. We can separate with social media. And to the society, the prevalence of social media has become integral part of our life. The digital age offer access point to enter to diverse need and prevalence. Easily available across various platforms. However, amid this abundance lies the challenge of discovering valuable information. Our problem now is there is many information around us. We can reach with social media, but we have to choose the exact information. Our problem now is how we select information, good information for us. Yeah. I think in this point, the challenge for us in higher education is how students become smart people to choose any information. Developing information literacy is pivotal to becoming proficient. Information selection, prudent utilization of social media coupled with astute decision making, it usage is crucial for reaping its benefit by safeguarding mental well-being. With invocation Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, we officially inaugurated the guest lecture termed "Does Social Media Impact Our Mental Health?" officially open. Terima kasih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Sukardi. Well, our honorable guests and participants, now we'll finally begin our main event, which is an international guest lecture entitled Social Media and Mental Health. Our main session will be led by our moderator, Muhammad Untung Manara, PhD. Give applause to our moderator.
Thank you, Ibu Delawati Supraba. Our Master of Ceremony today, good afternoon everyone. I am Untung Manara. It's an honor to be the moderator of the general lecture today. Welcome to the general lecture organized by Faculty of Psychology, University of Merdeka Malang, under title Social Media and Mental Health. To start with the main event of this international guest lecture, I would like to introduce our speaker today, Nino Gugusvili. Obtained his double degree on PhD from Maastricht University, Netherlands, and the University of Tartu, Estonia. Currently, she works as postdoctoral researcher at Faculty of Psychology and Neuroscience, Maastricht University, Netherlands. His research mainly focused on social media and mental health. She also already published a lot of publication on topic of social media and mental health. I would like to highlight several publications that she already published. For example, under title Facebook Use Intensity and Depressive Symptoms, a moderated mediation model of problematic Facebook use, age, neuroticism, and extraversion, that already published in BMC Psychology. And also, there's an article under title, The Association Between Neuroticism and Problematic Social Networking Sites, The Rule of Fear of Missing Out, and Self-Control, that already published in Psychological Reports. So that's looking at the publication that Nino already published, I think she is an expert in our theme today, our title today, about social media and mental health. And the title of his presentation today is Does Social Media Impact Our Mental Health? So we already shared the slide presentation from Nino. I hope you already read it and prepare your questions. Before we connect to our speaker today via Zoom, I would like to briefly review about the material today based on the slides, so that you have briefly idea about the material today. So I will explain in bahasa Indonesia. Jadi apa yang akan dijelaskan oleh pemateri berdasarkan slide yang sudah di-share itu adalah dia akan berbicara tentang bagaimana efek sosial media, bagaimana efek penggunaan sosial media ini terhadap kesehatan mental. Whether bad or good, apakah baik dampaknya bagi kesehatan mental kita atau berdampak buruk gitu ya. Nah, nanti akan dibahas bagaimana mekanismenya, kapan penggunaan sosial media ini berdampak buruk dan kapan penggunaan sosial media ini berdampak negatif ya. Jadi akan dibahas nanti faktor-faktor apa saja yang bisa menyebabkan penggunaan media sosial ini berdampak baik atau buruk bagi kesehatan mental kita. Ya. Misalnya salah satu faktor yang akan dibahas adalah bagaimana peran problematic users ya. Nanti tadi ada problematic user itu bagaimana dia bisa berdampak pada penggunaan sosial media ini pada kesehatan mental. Dan juga nanti ada faktor bagaimana penggunaan sosial media itu kalau kita lihat ada tipe-tipe orang yang menggunakan sosial media itu bersifat pasif, ya, passive use. Ada yang menggunakan sosial media itu secara aktif. Ya. Nah, bagaimana tipe penggunaan sosial media ini juga akan berperan, ya, memoderasi dampaknya terhadap kesehatan mental. Ya, apakah yang mana berdampak pada kesehatan mental secara positif atau negatif? Apakah penggunaan sosial media secara aktif, misalnya sering posting, gitu, sering share, sering komen, itu kan active user namanya dalam sosial media. Nah, ini perannya apakah buruk atau baik terhadap kesehatan mental? Ada juga misalnya penggunaan sosial media itu yang bersifat pasif, hanya scrolling gitu kan, cuma melihat-lihat gitu kan. Nah, ini dampaknya kepada sosial media bagaimana? Nah, nanti itu yang akan didiskusikan, ya, gambaran secara garis besar yang akan dijelaskan oleh pembicara kita hari ini. Dia akan berbicara tentu berdasarkan riset-riset yang dia lakukan, ya, sehingga apa yang akan dia jelaskan nanti adalah benar-benar berdasarkan riset yang dia lakukan sendiri, sehingga teman-teman nanti bisa mencermati bagaimana sih riset yang dia lakukan dalam penelitian dalam konteks sosial media ini. Apakah seperti halnya kita melakukan riset, misalnya pakai kuesioner, kemudian disebarkan gitu kan. Nah, kita juga bisa mempelajari metode penelitiannya, metode penelitian yang mereka gunakan dalam konteks penggunaan dalam penelitian tentang sosial media ini gitu ya. Ya, jadi fokus penelitiannya memang tentang sosial media, sehingga apa yang akan dia jelaskan nanti memang benar-benar expertnya dia di bidang itu. Kemudian ya dalam proses diskusi nanti kalian bisa bertanya dalam bahasa Inggris secara langsung. Ya, silakan disiapkan pertanyaannya, ya, siapkan pertanyaan terbaiknya disiapkan, atau bisa juga dalam bahasa Indonesia. Nanti saya akan bantu untuk menerjemahkan, ya, terkait dengan ya, jadi bebas saja, ya, tidak perlu takut, ya, kalau seandainya memang ada halangan di bahasa silakan sampaikan dalam bahasa Indonesia. Ya, nanti saya bantu terjemahkan pertanyaannya, dan kemudian kalau ada yang mau langsung berinteraksi dalam bahasa Inggris juga sangat dianjurkan gitu ya, sangat dipersilahkan gitu ya untuk menanyakan pertanyaannya langsung. Ya, kita akan connect sebentar lagi sekitar, karena janjiannya itu adalah jam 2 ya, jam 2 karena kita punya perbedaan waktu yang cukup lama, yaitu 6 jam ya. Jadi di sana itu sekarang jam 8 kurang 10 menit. Ya, janjiannya adalah jam 8 gitu, jam 8 janjiannya. Nah, karena ya, kita menunggu itu ya, menunggu sementara terkait dengan waktu ini, jam 8 kita akan connect langsung dan akan langsung mendengarkan penjelasan dari pemateri terkait dengan materi tentang sosial media dan mental health gitu ya. Begitu ya. Ya, saya kira untuk mengisi waktu 10 menit lagi Bu ya. 8 menit lagi. 8 menit lagi. Ya, saya akan isi dengan rundown. Ya, saya akan lebih detail lagi ya menjelaskan apa yang menjadi materi dari yang sudah di-share itu. Ya, kalau kita lihat secara konsep penelitian ya, jadi penelitian-penelitian yang dia lakukan ini banyak menggunakan pendekatan diary study namanya, yaitu pendekatan di mana mengukur variabel-variabel yang diteliti itu setiap hari. Ya, setiap hari. Kalau kita biasanya melakukan penelitian itu biasanya dengan pendekatan cross sectional namanya, yaitu pendekatan yang mana kita mengukur itu cuma sekali. Ya, variabel itu ya cuma sekali dikasih survei, dapat 2 variabel, kemudian kita analisis gitu ya. Nah, apa yang dilakukan oleh penelitian yang dilakukan pemateri kita ini, dia menggunakan pendekatan diary study atau biasa disebut juga dengan longitudinal study, yaitu penelitian yang mana dia mengukur variabel itu secara berulang kali gitu, tidak hanya sekali gitu ya, tidak hanya sekali. Biasanya dalam rentang 1 minggu, ya, gitu ya. Dia diukur tiap hari gitu ya. Bahkan setiap hari itu diukur sampai 3 kali pengukurannya itu, diukur sampai 3. Sehingga ya memang agak ribet gitu ya penelitiannya itu, karena variabel yang diangkat itu diteliti berulang karena longitudinal gitu ya. Nah, karena keribetan inilah, penelitian-penelitian yang ribet ini biasanya dipublikasikan di jurnal-jurnal internasional, biasanya penelitian-penelitian yang agak ribet seperti ini memang gitu ya. Ya, biasanya seperti itu gitu ya. Kalau penelitian-penelitian ya 2 variabel misalnya 1 kali diukur, ya memang mungkin bisa diterima di jurnal-jurnal dalam level nasional ya gitu ya. Ya, jadi penelitian-penelitian itu ya, jadi dia mengukurnya secara berulang terkait dengan variabel-variabel yang diangkat ini, biasanya dalam rentang 1 minggu. Misalnya ya, contohnya adalah dia sehingga yang menjadi masalah dalam penelitian-penelitian yang mengukur variabel secara berulang ini adalah tingkat gugurnya responden ya, dari awal sampai akhir itu mereka tetap mau konsisten, mau mengisi survei kita itu setiap hari, bahkan 3 kali sehari gitu ya, sudah kayak minum obat gitu ya, ngisi survei gitu ya. Apakah tidak banyak responden atau tidak banyak subjek yang mau gitu ya untuk mengisi survei 3 kali seminggu, ya, 3 kali sehari, bahkan 1 minggu gitu ya dalam mengisi survei itu tadi gitu ya. Nah itu tidak banyak, tantangannya adalah subjek gugur itu sangat besar ya. Di awal mungkin kita punya subjek responden banyak, mengumpulkan 300, tapi di akhir setelah akhir penelitian itu mungkin bisa jadi tinggal 50 gitu ya. Tantangannya adalah seperti itu gitu ya. Sangat besar tantangannya, sehingga penelitian-penelitian yang seperti ini biasanya pakai reward ya, atau untuk memotivasi ya, memotivasi responden untuk tetap mau konsisten mengisi survei dalam rentang 1 minggu, bahkan setiap hari mengisi 3 kali gitu ya. Nah sehingga di dalam penelitian-penelitian ini juga seperti halnya yang juga menjadi tantangan adalah jumlah pertanyaan. Ya, jumlah pertanyaan. Kalau survei-survei yang sering kali kita gunakan itu pertanyaannya kan banyak. Satu variabel sampai 20 sampai 30 pertanyaan ya, satu variabel gitu ya. Nah, untuk penelitian-penelitian yang seperti ini itu biasanya surveinya itu biasanya kadang cuma 1-2 pertanyaan. Ya. Misalnya menanyakan tentang tentang happiness, melihat dampak penggunaan sosial media terhadap emosi gitu ya. Jadi pertanyaannya itu kalau saya lihat itu cuma sebatas how happy are you now? Ya, bukan, penekanannya adalah now-nya, sekarang gitu kan. How happy are you now gitu ya. Cuman sebatas pertanyaan satu itu hanya untuk. Nah, tapi terkadang kita dalam survei-survei umum yang kita lakukan untuk menanyakan happiness itu biasanya kita punya banyak pertanyaan sampai 30. Nah, untuk penelitian-penelitian yang seperti ini gitu ya, biasanya ya pertanyaan-pertanyaannya cuman 1 sampai 2 pertanyaan gitu ya, untuk mencegah tingkat bosan ya dalam mengisi survei ya. Nah, itu isu-isu yang biasanya juga dijadikan dalam riset penelitian tentang sosial media ini, dan juga kita harus perhatikan bahwa ternyata metode penelitian itu berkembang, tidak hanya penelitian-penelitian yang sering kita lakukan. Ternyata di luar sana cara meneliti itu berkembang dengan pesat, dengan teknik-teknik yang berbagai macam, sehingga perlu kita pelajari juga dalam rangka untuk meningkatkan kualitas penelitian yang kita lakukan seperti ya. Nah, di sini nanti kalian akan lihat ya bagaimana penjelasan hasil riset yang sudah dia lakukan terkait dengan penggunaan sosial media ini dan dampaknya terhadap kesehatan mental gitu ya. Itu adalah pengantar ya, kita akan menunggu sekitar 1 menit lagi untuk terhubung dengan pembicara gitu ya. Baik, pemateri sudah bergabung dengan kita. Good morning, Nino. Hi.
Good afternoon, Untuk.
Yeah, good afternoon from our side today, from Indonesia. Good morning on your side. Are you in the Netherlands or in Estonia now?
I'm in the Netherlands, so it's indeed morning for me, and I know that it's afternoon for you.
Yeah. We have time difference, 6 time difference today. Welcome to the International Guest House Lecture by our faculty, Psychology, University of Merdeka Malang, under title Social Media in Mental Health. Here we are, I am with my undergraduate students and also this is my undergraduate student here. Yeah. We have, they are already in some hall for about 200 students here. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Impressive.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone.
Yeah. Say hi, guys. Yeah. Yeah, they are at 4th year of their study. And also we have my college here. I have our Vice Rector for Academic Affair. This is Mr. Sukardi. This is Mr. Sukardi.
Hi, Ms. Nino. Welcome.
Hi.
Thank you very much for joining.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you too. And also I have our Dean today, Dr. Nawang Wulandari.
Hi Nino, nice to
Hello.
meet you. Thank you for
Likewise.
joining us.
Thank you.
All right. So that, and also our staffs today. Also, we have our staff today. And then, actually, I already briefly introduced you to my students. And actually, we now ready to listen your speech about our theme today, about social media and mental health. Before you present your presentation, we would like to take a picture with you, with all the students here.
Perfect. That sounds great.
Yeah.
Dipandu aja mas, semuanya untuk studinya gimana?
Yeah, I will count the picture. 1, 2, and 3.
Sama mahasiswa? Sama
Ya.
mahasiswa juga?
Begitu lewat sini, ya. Perwakilan. Yeah.
Cek, cek.
We will take picture with our student as well.
Mahasiswa
Wait a
silakan
moment, ya.
maju semua. 3 sesi ya? 3 sesi. Oke, saya sini dulu. Kiri ya? Silakan maju dulu sayap kiri. Segera ya. Yang cowok jongkok di depan. Yang cowok jongkok di depan, tidak menggerombol, kiri kanan disesuaikan. Oke, sudah semua? Yang di kanan pindah lagi. Kanan saya pindah lagi. 1, oke. Yang jongkok tambah 1 lagi biar seimbang. Jongkok tambah 1 lagi biar seimbang, Mbak, salah satu. Yang dari kanan? Yang kiri? Oke, ya. Sudah? Maskernya dibuka dulu. Ibu dosen, Bapak dosen, yang mau mendampingi silakan. Pak Azbi monggo, Bu Vivi. Ya, kiri kanan biar seimbang. Ya, sudah? Siap? Silakan.
I will count for the take picture. 1, 2, and 3.
Bebas terbatas, silahkan. Oke, boleh kembali saya yang di tengah, silakan. Tengah, silakan. Sekarang Bu Ratih sama siapa? Bu Uslah, Bu Ratih dan Bu Uslah, silakan mendampingi.
Langsung semua
Yang
ya.
laki-laki bisa jongkok.
Sekalian Bu Al, muat kayaknya. Banyak dah.
Enggak Pak, jelek. Cukup dulu ya. Nah, ikut yang sini aja ya. Oke, stop dulu, ikut yang terakhir ya. Nanti lagi, ikut yang sini biar kelihatan wajahnya. Oke. Sudah? Di sini. Nah, yang laki-laki duduk. Ya, yang laki-laki duduk. Kemudian yang baris kedua setengah duduk, setengah berdiri. Nah, pastikan wajahnya tampak ya. Tambah satu yang di dua, Bu. Ini masuk kedua. Bu Uslah, silakan. Oke, sudah? Sudah cantik? Ya.
1, 2, 3.
Okay, let's take the picture. Nino, are you ready? Okay.
Yes,
1,
I'm ready.
2, and 3. Smile. Freestyle, please. Freestyle, please. Bebas terbatas, cuman jempol aja. Oke, sudah? Oke, thank you Nino. And then
Thank you so much.
once more. Silakan. Ayo, silakan. Yang belum, silakan. Setengah, tengah, sama yang kiri ya. Ayo segera. Yang laki-laki langsung memposisikan di depan sendiri. Enggak, nanti aku tak crop. Tak crop sampingnya pemateri pasti. Kiri kanan diseimbangkan biar nggak oleng karena sudah siang. Ya, sudah ya.
Mbak yang hitam itu Mbak.
Udah. Yang satu. Baris pertama sudah. Bu Dela, silahkan Bu Desi. Enggak, aku enggak. Bu Desi? Oke.
Mbak bisa sana. Geser Mbak. Oh yang hijau. Tuh kan.
Oke, sudah? Ya, jongkok. Oke. Oke, yang jongkok pastikan wajahnya tetap tampak ya. Mbak, agak samping, oke. Ya. Silau ya Mas ya, pakai kacamata hitam. Ya, oke, enggak apa-apa pakai kacamata hitam. Asal tidak disensor aja ya. Ya, oke. Oke, sudah siap? Ready Nino? Let's take the picture.
Yes.
Okay, 1, 2, and 3. Smile. Bebas terbatas. Okay, thank you very much, Nino.
Thank you so much.
Tes. Okay, you may learn something new today, from our culture. This
That's
is
very cool.
yeah.
Yeah.
This is a must-do activity that we have to do every event we have. So take picture. Yeah.
It's nice. It's nice.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We're gonna start our lecture today. I already briefly introduced you to the student. Nino is my fellow PhD student when I was take my PhD in Maastricht University. Now we ready to listen your speech about our theme today about social media and mental health. You will present your presentation for about 30 minutes, and then we continue with question and answers. Will you handle? Will you
share my screen?
Sorry.
Shall I share my screen?
Break. Sorry?
Oh.
Yeah, 30 minutes.
Okay, and I will go ahead and share my screen. Can you hear me well?
Oh, share screen, yeah, so that you will handle your slide by yourself, okay? Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, exactly.
Nino,
Okay,
time and screen is yours, please.
thank you very much. Just a quick question. Can you hear me well, and can you see the slides well?
Yes, it's perfect.
Great, then I will go ahead. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me, and thank you so much, Untung, for this opportunity. I'm very, very thrilled to be presenting today to you, and it's unfortunate that I could not be there in person. I would have loved to be there in person, but technologies now enable us these kind of things, right? So I will talk about social media and how it might impact our mental health. And before I proceed, I want to present or talk about today's plan, basically, or not today's plan, but for the plan of presentations. So I will very briefly introduce myself to you. I know that Untung already did that. Then I will provide you with some background information about social media, like basic statistics worldwide, but also for Indonesia. Then I want to touch upon a topic of public perception and concerns about social media effects and how social media are perceived in different societies. And after that, I will dig deeper into scientific evidence we have so far and kind of try to summarize what we know, what we need to know, but what we don't know, and why it is problematic. And I will also outline some limitations of the current research and talk about a little bit about the way forward, how we can move forward. And I really hope that given that there a lot of you who are studying now, this speech might inspire you to study social media and mental health and improve the field. Okay, so as promised, very quickly about me, my name is Nino Gugushvili. I'm a psychologist by training, which means that all my education degrees from bachelor to doctoral degrees, I was trained as a psychologist. And I'm from Georgia, and that's why this map is placed here, because whenever I say that I'm from Georgia, people wrongly assume that I'm from the United States, because of course there is a state called Georgia, but no, that's not the case. I'm from this little country, which is basically literally on the border of Europe and Asia. So as Untung already mentioned, I obtained my PhD degree from Maastricht University and University of Tartu, which is located in Estonia. And at Maastricht University, I had a pleasure to work with Untung, and certainly that were great times. And my PhD topic concerned the relationship between social media use and mental health. So I think a lot of the things that I'm going to talk about today come directly from my dissertation, but also from my current studies. And so as of today, I am still working at Maastricht University and doing research mainly again about social media, but also a bit about smartphones, dating apps use, algorithms, and so on and so forth. And probably you already guessed that I'm very passionate about technologies, but yes, let me confirm that this is the case. I appreciate technologies a lot, and I find it fascinating. And that's why I think that we need to study them. And yeah, as a side note, I'm also very much into sci-fi, and I'm a huge fan of sci-fi books and sci-fi movies. So that's about me, and that kind of sums up what I wanted to say. Now let's talk about social media. Now, the title of this slide is like a joke, because I am almost 100% sure that you recognize almost all of them, if not all of them. But I put this photo because I wanted to make a point that, of course, social media are everywhere. We all use it every day, and they are integrated very deeply in our daily lives. So whenever we see these icons, I mean, we know what they represent. But the thing is that even the oldest social media platforms, such as Twitter, which is now, of course, rebranded as X, or Facebook, are just 17-year-old teenagers. And it's just remarkable how young they are, or how recent they are, but how they are already such a big deal to us. And if you look at this timeline, like even the newest one, which is TikTok, which became publicly available for the whole world in 2020, is like already a household name. I think almost everyone recognizes it and knows it and maybe even uses it. So it's just remarkable, really, how these platforms came out of nowhere, and are now just really something that we know and we cannot live without. And I know that people in the audience are much younger than me, but for me, this period of time when Twitter and Facebook emerged, I was a teenager, and I cannot really differentiate my life anymore without social media and with social media, because I literally grew up with these technologies. Now, to prove my point, you can see, like I plotted this graph just to illustrate how steadily social media users, number of social media users has increased over the decade. And of course, you can see that it starts from 2013. And of course, before 2013, the trend was the same. But even if we only talk about this 10-year period, you can see it's really insane, almost like from 1.7 billion users, it has increased to 4.7 billion people, which means that basically more than half of the world's population is now using at least one of the social media. And in terms of the most popular social media platforms, and now I'm talking about the worldwide kind of average statistics, Facebook is still domineering the social media landscape, let's say, but also Instagram and other social media platforms are quite popular. Now, I don't know whether you know WeChat, which is like very popular in China. And that explains also why it is represented with 1.3 billion people. But one thing that I wanted to mention here is that, of course, we see that Facebook is super popular, but, and I think this will resonate with you a lot, it's that Facebook is not that popular among young people anymore. I think what research shows is that youngsters apologies, have accounts on Facebook. Of course they do, and I'm sure that you do, most of you, but they don't actively use it. On the other hand, they are more into Instagram and TikTok, which means that Facebook is losing a lot of people who are the most avid users of social media. The other point is that, as I mentioned, TikTok just took off like 5 years ago, and you can already see how popular it is. It is insanely popular with 1 billion people. And now if we look into country-specific statistics, and in this case about Indonesia, I just looked it up and graphed it because I was preparing basically for this presentation. And you can see that in Indonesia, or the statistics of Indonesia quite well mirrors the worldwide statistics. Again, Facebook is like super popular, then Instagram, and then of course there are some variations like across the countries. Sometimes it's YouTube, which is on the third place, sometimes it's TikTok, but I think the main trend is there. And I would be very curious when we have a Q&A session to hear directly from you whether this is the case and whether you agree with these statistics. Now, of course, like all this background information and statistics that I presented was like a preparation step to say that, okay, these social media platforms are really kind of a big deal. And because they are so popular, because so many people use it, and because they are integral for our daily lives, it's only fair if we have some concerns about, you know, how it might affect our mental health. Especially if you consider that the age range of social media users is like almost like from 12-year-olds or even earlier until, I don't know, old adults. So it's important, of course, to understand how it is different for young people versus young adults versus older adults, and so on and so forth. And to be honest, the public scandals that are related to social media don't help with its image. Because some of you maybe remember Cambridge Analytica scandal, which happened, if I remember correctly, 6 years ago in 2000 or 5 years ago, which basically was that there was a lot of sensitive personal data collected on Facebook without users' knowledge, and then this information, all this rich data, and I'm talking about millions of data points, were used for targeting people and for political campaigns. And there's like a big suspicion that this data helped Donald Trump, for instance, to come into power and become a president. And if you think about the impact, again, it's huge because, of course, I mean, it indirectly, like political changes like this, indirectly affect almost everyone in that country. Now, the most recent scandal was, I think, 1 year ago when a whistleblower basically leaked the documents from Instagram which shows that Instagram, or let's say Meta, which is a parent company of Instagram, Facebook, and WhatsApp, is very well aware that Instagram use is very harmful for adolescent girls because they feel very bad after using it, or while using it. It impacts their body image very negatively. It impacts their self-esteem very negatively. So, I mean, this kind of scandals and this kind of information does not make public very happy, right? And it's again, very fair that we have these questions like, okay, how does it impact us? And if you think about and try to summarize how social media is perceived, you will find lots and lots of articles in popular media with such apocalyptic headlines asking, have smartphones destroyed the generation? Have social media platforms destroyed our mental health? And so on and so forth. Which is basically saying that, okay, we are really worried about social media and we are not really trusting big tech companies because we know that they are not doing things for us, they are doing that for themselves. And it's fair. I agree that they don't necessarily think about users and they only think about the profits. And some of you, I'm sure, have already seen this movie called The Social Dilemma, which again portrays social media as a tool of evil, almost. And I think that while I understand the sentiment and while I understand these concerns about, big tech companies being very unfair and thinking about only about money and profits, I still think that this film is sort of an exaggeration. And it is an exaggeration because it does not necessarily come from empirical evidence. So a lot of things that are being said in that movie need further verification, need further studies. And I think that it just further amplifies this panic about social media and does not really help in terms of clarifying how social media affects us. And if you look at the quotes, like I just chose these two quotes, because they, I think, illustrate these fears that we have about social media. The first is, if you are not paying for the product, then you are the product. And this goes back to, for instance, to this Cambridge Analytica scandal. Because, of course, if social media companies are using our data and we are using social media for free, which is almost always the case, then, yeah, it means that there's a huge risk that they will sell this data to God only knows to whom, and we will be targeted and exploited. Now, this is a fair point, I must agree, but I still think that the overall tone is not really scientific. And the other quote is that there are only two industries that call their customers users: illegal drugs and software. And here, I think the underlying reference or implicit assumption is that the author of this quote equates social media to drug use and addiction. And I will return to this point a bit later in the presentation, but I think that this previous slides and also this slide very nicely illustrates how social media are perceived and how we worry about its effects. But I think we all are here because we want to hear about what basically science says about it and what scientific evidence shows. Are these concerns true, or are these concerns a little bit exaggerated, or should we be worried even more, right? So let's dig into that a bit further. And first thing we need to do, of course, is to define social media, which sounds a bit like redundant because we all use it, and I think we all know it intuitively, right, what social media means. But for the sake of accuracy, let me just define it. And I took the most popular scientific definition of social media in this case, which is social media are computer-mediated communication channels that allow users to engage in social interaction with broad and narrow audiences in real time or asynchronously. So to put it differently, this means that if you think back about your usage patterns of social media, sometimes you just send a direct message, let's say, to a friend. That would be your narrow audience. Sometimes you just post something on your profile so that everyone can see. That would be like the broad audience, or something in between would be posting something on your profile, but with restrictions so that, let's say, certain people cannot access your content. And real-time versus asynchronous is also very understandable and self-explanatory, I think, because sometimes we have this one-to-one communication in real time, right? Sometimes I send a message to my friend, she's online and replies to me immediately. Sometimes I post something on social media and the same friend might see it in the evening and say something like post a comment or something. So it can go on and on for a few days even when it's asynchronous. Now, when we are talking about social media use, it's very, very important to distinguish between healthy or non-problematic social media use and problematic/addictive social media use. Let me first define what healthy means. Now, of course, it is not as healthy as eating the vegetables, not in that sense, but after you hear the definition, you will understand what I mean. So healthy usage of social media basically is usage of social media in a relatively healthy and balanced manner, which does not interfere with daily life and social relationships. On the other hand, problematic/addictive usage is compulsive engagement in social media platforms that significantly disrupts the user's functioning in important life domains, such as interpersonal relations, work or study performance, and physical health. So I think you can see the difference. It's about how much social media use interferes with your daily life, right? And if it interferes a lot, then we are talking about problematic use. If it does not, then it's a relatively healthy usage. Now, another point that I want to make here is that a lot of researchers use the term social media addiction, and also a lot of people in their daily life casually mention, oh, I'm addicted to social media. Now, I personally, when I write, let's say, articles or go on conferences, I always use the term problematic social media use instead. And the reason is very simple. If you social media addiction is not recognized as a formal disorder yet. So if you go and look up DSM-5 or ICD, which are like the main diagnostic manuals, right? You will not find such a diagnosis. Now, this does not mean that social media addiction or problematic social media use is not real, but it's again for the sake of precision and accuracy that we need to wait. I think it's a matter of time before we have enough evidence that DSM and ICD will recognize social media addiction, or maybe not, but it is again a matter of time. So before it is not, or until now, because we don't have such a diagnosis, I always refrain from using addiction and say problematic instead. But that, of course, like this choice of terminology does not diminish the fact that excessive use of social media can really impair your life. It can really have a bad and negative impact on your mental health. And so, yeah, I sometimes find that GIFs very nicely summarize my points. So just to illustrate it further, think about healthy use as okay, I've got everything under control. I can control my phone use. I can control my social media use. And if I don't need it, I can stop it. And for the problematic use, well, basically you cannot control your social media use anymore, and it controls you. And I often like to give this example about healthy versus problematic use. Just think about two people. Let's start with person A, who spends, let's say, 5 hours on social media. But they use social media, A, for work, because they have this kind of job where they need social media. They use social media to connect with friends abroad, like, for instance, I don't know, imagine me calling Untung via Messenger, or they use social media for convenience to just, send a message to a family member, like, okay, I'm going to do grocery shopping. Do you need this, and this? Now, this sounds normal, right? Relatively healthy. And most importantly, this person A can put down their phone and stop using social media when it's not necessary. So that's what we would label as a healthy use of social media. On the other hand, imagine person B, who also uses social media for 5 hours a day, but uses it in an appropriate settings. For instance, when listening a lecture, when studying, when working, and neglects other important daily activities. For instance, imagine a scenario when you meet with your friends, and instead of talking with each other, this one person is constantly on their phone, scrolling through, doing things on social media. And also imagine that if you tell something to this person, they get super annoyed and they don't want to put down their phone. And as a result, they have problems with their family members, their loved ones, because these people are getting annoyed by these excessive usage patterns. So again, this is, now we are talking about problematic use of social media. So I hope that these two examples further clarify why it is important to differentiate and how to differentiate between healthy versus problematic use. Now, of course, we are concerned about social media's effect on mental health. So let's, again, for the sake of accuracy and precision, define mental health, because intuitively, of course, we know what mental health is. Just a second. Sorry. So I took this definition from the World Health Organization because I think it nicely sums up mental health for what it is. So mental health is a state of well-being in which every individual realizes his or her own potential, can cope with the normal stresses of life, can work productively and fruitfully, and is able to make a contribution to her or his community. So I think that makes sense, right? When you hear it, like, okay, yeah, it's reasonable. But when we are talking about mental health, I think we typically, at least in research, differentiate between the two different aspects of mental health. The first is well-being, which is basically having higher levels of positive affect, feeling satisfied with one's life, having lower levels of negative affect, and being more pro-social, approachable, friendly, and so on and so forth. On the other hand, the second aspect of mental health refers to ill-being, which is very close or synonymous to psychopathology, which is depression, anxiety, stress, disturbances in daily life, and so on and so forth. But of course, these two aspects are related, but they are not overlapping fully. And importantly, the presence of well-being in one's life does not mean that they don't experience ill-being, and vice versa. So when we think about mental health, we need to think about these two components balancing each other. Like, okay, if you have higher levels of well-being, but also lower levels of ill-being, then your mental health is in a good shape. And well, if you have like disbalance between these two, then yeah, probably you are having some mental health problems. And it can deteriorate further and become like a big problem, let's say clinical depression, anxiety, and so on. Or, you know, there are different types of gradations, but I think I'm talking about these differences a lot because when we talk about mental health and how social media use impacts mental health, we need to be more precise which aspect we are talking about. Because sometimes we as researchers combine everything together and it's not that clear cut. Because social media might impact only well-being, or social media might impact only ill-being, or maybe it impacts both. And these are like important aspects that we need to consider. All right, so now let's go back to the empirical evidence that I talked about, that we need to know what the studies say. So when we are talking about research on social media, we typically differentiate between the two different stages. The first stage, I think, started roughly in 2008 and ended around 2013. Now, a lot of studies were conducted in that time period, and I'm talking about hundreds and hundreds of studies because it's like a really active scientific field. And unfortunately, these papers, these studies produced very mixed evidence. So even now, if you go back to these papers and, you know, you can have two piles of studies, one big pile that will say that social media is very good for mental health, and the other that will say, oh my God, no, social media is really bad for your mental health. So what are we going to conclude based on that, right? It's really difficult. So we typically refer to this period as like, you know, starting point when the field was very young and there were a lot of studies conducted without too much thought. And the biggest reason or the biggest issue that contributed to these mixed findings, honestly, is that most of the studies, I would say 90% of the studies were conducted using cross-sectional design, which is basically just going out and asking people, how do you feel? Like, how much do you use social media and how do you feel? And then, yeah, correlating these two and concluding whether it's good or bad. And I'm sure you will agree that this is not the way to move forward and study these very important and complex issues. So this is why probably and most likely we have so much mixed evidence. But luckily, the field progressed, and the second stage, which started in 2014, roughly, and is still ongoing, improved research methods, improved research designs, and there were a lot of longitudinal studies conducted, a lot of experience sampling studies that ask people, let's say for 1 week, repeatedly, okay, how much have you used your smartphone or social media and how do you feel now? So you have a better overview of how people use social media, but also how they feel. And what we see as a result is that there is now a consensus in the field that the amount of time one spends on social media is related to impaired mental health. So basically, if you spend a lot of time or the more time you spend on social media, the worse it is for mental health. And this is further confirmed by meta-analytic overviews, which try to statistically synthesize all the research that exists. So yes, the conclusion is that, okay, social media is bad for mental health, but, and this is very, very important, but if you think about the effect size of social media use on mental health, then things become very sketchy. The effect is so small that it has almost no practical value. So basically, you can say that, yeah, it's statistically significant, but in real life, this has no impact whatsoever, because if social media use explains only 1% of variation in mental health, then I mean, what's the point of explaining that? And there are some researchers who basically compared social media use mental health relationship to the relationship of eating potatoes and mental health, and they found that eating potatoes is more harmful in terms of effects for mental health than using social media, or wearing glasses is more negative for mental health than social media use. Now, this is ridiculous, right? I mean, after all this introduction that I made, and after all these statistics, and after all these concerns, to conclude that that's all we got is quite distorting, right? So, yeah, that's the reaction one gets, is like, okay, is that all that you can say about it after, I know, decades of research and thousands of papers? And no, this is not the full story. The full story is much more complex, and there are certain limitations and missing pieces that we need to piece together to better understand how social media impacts our mental health. The first biggest problem is a moving target problem. That's how we call it, because social media or social media platforms change a lot over the time. And again, to illustrate it, I hope you can see it. On the left side, you can see Facebook and how it looked back in 2005 and how it looks nowadays. And I mean, it's obvious that these are almost like two different platforms. There are so many features that have been added throughout these years, and there are so many features that disappeared from Facebook that it is almost nonsensical even to compare studies from 2010, let's say, to the studies that are conducted nowadays in 2023, because these are like, even though we are talking about the same platform, which is Facebook, these are not similar. You cannot really compare this. And now we are talking only about within platform differences, right? But think about how many other social media platforms we have. We have Instagram, we have TikTok, we have Twitter, we have, I don't know, Snapchat, and all these platforms, first of all, are different from each other, and they also undergo very rapid changes within themselves. So this is like a huge problem for everyone who studies social media, because in order to really understand what happens on this social media, you need high quality data. Okay, and the only way to get this kind of high quality data is if big tech companies collaborate with researchers and give us access to their huge data sets. But they are not doing that, they are not going to do that, which means that we are constantly trying to capture something and we cannot really capture it. And I think there are certain movements, like there are researchers who are asking for changes in legislation so that, you know, governments will force these big tech companies to share data more openly. And if this will not, I don't know whether this will happen or not, but if this won't happen, then we will always have this second-hand data, which will be like a crude approximation of what reality is. Now, the second point is very much related to what I just said, because we don't have this real data from social media platforms. What we do typically is that we go and have these self-report questionnaires, and we ask people like, okay, how much have you used social media? How do you feel? How much have you chatted? How much have you scrolled through the Instagram, let's say, right? So these are like questionnaires, and we are relying on participants and their recall to tell us something about their usage. But we know, and you know, that self-report questionnaires have low accuracy. They are often very biased, not least because of social desirability. Of course, there is also this component of lack of self-awareness because people differ, right, in terms of how self-aware they are. Sometimes you have participants who are perfectly self-aware and can give you a really good estimate how much time they spend, let's say, on social media. But oftentimes you have people who either overestimate or underestimate their social media usage. So this is like a big problem, because if you cannot measure something correctly, then your end result will be skewed and incorrect. The other thing that we have, and it's like quite a recent thing, is objective data, because if you look into your phone, and I'm sure you know about this feature, nowadays for both iPhone and Android, you have this screen time feature or digital well-being and parental control feature, and there you can see basically how much time you spend on your phone, on your specific social media platforms, and so on and so forth. So we call this relatively objective data, of course, because phone measures usage patterns better than self-reports, but it also has its very serious limitations, because sometimes it's still inaccurate, because sometimes, this of course tracks time on your phone, but sometimes people also use laptops, and you don't have this information anymore because you only know what people do on their smartphones. The other issue is that, of course, you need an active consent from participants to use this data. They must be willing to, go and check their phone and then report which social media they have used for how much time. And sometimes they don't want to do that, which is very understandable. Maybe I don't want to share with you like which social media platforms I use and how much time I spend. Maybe I feel ashamed, right? So there are a lot of aspects which hinder collection of this kind of data. And most importantly, you get very limited information about what people do, because you only have time metrics. Basically, you have these graphs where it tells you like, okay, let's say Nino spent 2 hours on TikTok, but you have no idea what did I do on TikTok. And you will see that this is extremely important, because just looking at the time metrics tells you nothing about how I used my social media. And it goes back to the examples that I told you about person A and person B, because even if 2 people use social media for 5 hours, it can be either very healthy or it can be very disordered. And to understand better what people do, you need to dig deeper, right? So, and just wanted to illustrate what is the most used scale to measure social media for self-reports. And you will, I think, agree with me that this is not the way to go forward and move forward, because we ask people like, and sometimes you can change like Facebook with Instagram or general social media use, but the questions are quite the same. Like, Facebook is part of my everyday activity. I am proud to tell people I'm on Facebook. Facebook has become part of my daily routine. I feel out of touch when I haven't logged onto Facebook for a while. I feel I'm part of the Facebook community. Then I would be sorry if Facebook shut down. So these first 6 questions, honestly, only measure how I feel about social media. They don't really tell me anything about what I do on social media, right? And the other two are again very crude metrics like, okay, approximately how many total Facebook friends do you have? And in the past week, this is the question on time spent. On average, approximately how much time per day have you spent actively using Facebook? So even though we are asking 8 questions to participants, you can see that we have very, very limited understanding of what these people really do on social media. And as I said, we really need to understand this, otherwise we cannot make sense of it, because social media are huge, they are complex, they have multiple functionalities, right? So without further differentiating, you are just having a very vague understanding of what happens on social media. So this also is closely related to the fact that nowadays, nowadays the field started to make or differentiate between different usage types of social media. So there is active use, which is one broad category, and then there is passive use. And let me explain what this means. So when we talk about active social media use, we are typically talking about activities that involve communication with other people. This might be sending direct messages, this might be posting something or replying something, or actively producing content, for instance, uploading a photo or a post or video, whatever. On the other hand, passive use is very easy to explain because it's just scrolling through the social media feed without interacting with anyone. Think about the moments when you scroll through your phone and you see a post, but you don't react on it. You just see and continue scrolling. And so these two types of usage, which are, of course, again, not ideal, but are better than these time metrics, are differently related to mental health. Specifically, what we see from the research is that active use is related positively to mental health, especially to well-being and well-being aspect of mental health, because the more you communicate on social media and the more you connect to people, the better you feel. And let's not forget that social media were created with the idea to connect people with each other, right? So, and connection is like an important thing for humans. Social belongingness, social interactions, these are the key things that contribute to our mental health. On the other hand, passive use is related to decreased mental health, and especially the ill-being aspect that I told you earlier, like it poses or is associated with anxiety, depression, and these negative aspects more strongly. And why is that? So basically, we know that there are different mechanisms, for instance, that explain why active use results in positive mental health and why passive use results in negative mental health. And in the case of active use, as I said, it's about social connection, it's about social support, it's about connecting with other people. Whereas in case of passive use, you are comparing inevitably yourself to others. And this happens because on social media you have a lot of personal information, right, about other people. People post everything nowadays, like, okay, I have this great life, I look great, I traveled somewhere exotic, I bought a new car. So nobody's really posting something horrible about themselves. It's all polished, it's all perfect, and it's all rosy. And when we go on social media and the whole feed is like that, it's very easy to feel bad about yourself and, to compare your life and yourself to others. And when you compare yourself to these perfect lives, then you most likely will feel depressed. So that's something that happens and is a real thing and often studied and often confirmed. But of course, now I talk about two mechanisms that might explain how these different usage types relate to mental health. But another limitation is of the current research is that we still don't know other mechanisms that could explain why, for instance, active use increases mental health versus passive use decreases mental health. So I think that now, of course, we are more aware that we need to do more research and think about these mechanisms, but as of now, we only have very limited understanding of these underlying mechanisms. And of course, these underlying mechanisms, or let's say mediators, are very important because these are psychological processes that underlie social media use mental health relationship. Another limitation, and this is more on the researcher's side, because of course there are missing pieces that are related let's say big tech companies are responsible for these limitations, but then there are some things that researchers are responsible for, and one of them is ignoring individual differences. Typically, when you read the scientific papers on this topic about social media mental health relationship, you see that we often assume that social media impacts everyone equally, which is not really true. Like, just think about it. Think about age, think about gender, think about personality traits. Is the impact of social media the same for, I don't know, adolescents and retired people? Are the effects same for men and women? Are the effects same for someone who is very neurotic versus someone who is very stable and calm? Intuitively, you can say that no, of course, you cannot have this one huge aggregate effect that really generalizes for all people. But the unfortunate reality is that the field has ignored these individual differences, and only now we are studying and starting to study which individual differences are important in the context of social media use and mental health. And we now have some findings already. For instance, we know that for people who have this trait level tendency to compare themselves with others, when they use social media passively, they feel very depressed afterwards, right? And this again goes back to the fact that I mentioned earlier that there is this positivity bias on social media, so we only share perfect photos and perfect content, so it's very easy, especially if you already have a tendency to compare yourself to others, to feel really bad. But there are many other individual differences that we need to take into account when we are talking about the impact of social media. Because, yeah, I mean, it's just very unfair to say that everyone is affected by social media in a similar way. So this is another limitation, but to summarize, I think that some of the problems that I mentioned are solvable, especially when the problem comes from the research side. And I think that since 2020, I feel that the field is making a very good, steady progress because we are acknowledging the problems we are having, we are acknowledging our methodological limitations, and I think that we see more and more research that takes into account, let's say, mechanisms, takes into account individual differences, and is more sensitive towards different types of social media use, instead of just saying that, okay, someone spent 3 hours there, so it must be horrible for them. And yeah, we are also, I think, trying to improve data collection methods, but this is not really easy because, I mean, we are still using or relying a lot on participants' recall. But it is a big hope, let's say, that together these improvements that I mentioned and this self-awareness of the field will further clarify for whom social media is either good or bad and why. Now, of course, I am not going to ignore the problematic social media use, and I just wanted to say that so far I've talked about this healthy, relatively healthy usage, right? But if we talk about the problematic social media use, it is very strongly related to impaired social relationships, impaired mental health, and impaired physical health and sleep issues. So there is there's not too much mixed evidence when it comes to problematic social media use, because we know that it's just not good. It's really actively bad for people's mental health. And you might wonder, why do some people become problematic users whereas others do not? There are certain predictors and certain predispositions that make some people more vulnerable, let's say, to become problematic users than others. The first thing is that what we see from research, people who have relatively impaired social skills, like they are shy, socially anxious, maybe very neurotic, and so on and so forth, they tend to overcompensate for their social relationships on social media, and it leads to this compulsive, excessive use. The other thing is, of course, I think you know this term FOMO, or fear of missing out, which means basically that you are afraid that something is happening out there and you are not part of it. And FOMO is another big issue that contributes to this problematic social media use, especially among adolescents, because, of course, when we are adolescents, we want to be part of our community, of the circle of our friends, right? And so this fear is very highlighted throughout this age, that, okay, there is something happening and I was not invited. Or there might be something happening, so I need to actively check out. And you go on your social media and you are checking, like, okay, are they having fun? Are they gathering and they did not invite me, or something like that? And of course, if you do that checking multiple times, it becomes quite compulsive, and then you are in this loop where you are checking your phone, and you cannot just stay calm. Like if you have 5 minutes like free, you are constantly like checking your phone and seeing what others are doing. Then, of course, there are, again, other age-related differences. For instance, we know that prefrontal cortex is not fully developed, right, until the age of 25, and which means that younger people are more vulnerable to develop these risky behaviors, these sort of addictive behaviors, and of course, age plays a role as well as gender, because interestingly, problematic social media users are mostly females, whereas, for instance, if you look at the problematic gaming use, then males are overrepresented, and they have this problem more often than not compared to the females. And of course, it will be unjust and unfair if I don't mention social media related factors that actively contribute to our problematic use and excessive use. The first thing is algorithms, and social media, of course, is driven by algorithms, and these algorithms are getting so good every day that they know you like I don't know, very well, and they cater you or provide you with the content that you will enjoy. So it's really difficult to break down this cycle. Recently, let me give you my personal example. So I'm studying TikTok, and I had to download TikTok and start using it to, get a better idea what I'm studying, basically. And I must say that TikTok has an insanely good algorithm, and I saw within a week how it learned my interests, my patterns of usage, and so on and so forth. And now, whenever I go on TikTok, it is just, I need a lot of self-control to stop using it after 10 minutes or so and put my phone down. So I think that it's not only us users who have certain vulnerabilities, but it is also tech companies who actually push us further to become very dependent on social media. And the other thing that contributes to this excessive use is bottomless feed, because you can scroll social media endlessly. There's no limit, like there's always content. And I think that this is like a intentional decision from social media platform side to make it like that, so that you can spend a lot of time on social media, and they will just, you know, have your attention more and more. So I think that pretty much sums up what I wanted to say today. I really hope that you enjoyed it, and if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to try and answer them. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Nino, for very insightful presentation today about social media and mental health. Now we will open question and answers. Participants
sure.
the audience can ask the question by directly ask the question to Nino with English, or you can ask your question in Bahasa Indonesia, and I will translate the question. This lecture also live via YouTube. The audience from YouTube can ask the question by typing their question in the comment or the chats. Yes, please, any question, please raise your hand. Could you please say your name? Yeah.
My name is Putri Atira, and you can call me Putri. And thanks for the opportunity to speak here. As for my question, what's your opinion on social media used as a coping mechanism in nowadays? And for example, let's just say I have an anonymous account to vent about my problems and feelings. And does that count as a passive use of social media? Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's a very interesting question, and I think that certainly we can use social media for coping, and I think that a lot of people do, especially I think this is related very much to the emotion regulation problems as well. And social media is just an easy way to cope with reality, sometimes by escaping, sometimes which is like a more passive form of coping, or just as you rightfully mentioned, sometimes just by venting and having an anonymous account where you just basically speak out your mind. I would not say that venting with the anonymous account is passive use, because you are still actively kind of contributing and actively expressing yourself. However, I also think that this is a very good and interesting example, because it's like on the border of anonymity versus self-expression, right? Because it's one thing if I went out with my real network, then everybody knows who I am and I get different kind of feedback. But if I'm just anonymous, then of course it's different. And yeah, but I think that it is still, I personally would count it still as as an active use, because you are not just looking at someone else's life. You are talking about your life and you are taking a stand, let's say.
Yeah, thank you very much, Nino, for answering the question. Next questions, please.
Selamat siang, Bapak Ibu dosen dan teman-teman sekalian, dan pemateri kita Nino Gugusvili. Perkenalkan, nama saya Nikodemus Wahyu Saputra, biasa dipanggil Niko. Sebelumnya mohon maaf, saya akan membacakan pertanyaan menggunakan bahasa Indonesia. Bulan lalu saya mengikuti salah satu event di Fakultas Psikologi, yakni Hipnosi, bersama Ibu Vivi Lutfi Dayati dengan judul Hubungan Antara Kecerdasan Emosional dengan Problematik Internet Use pada Mahasiswa Universitas Merdeka Malang. Menurut saya ini antara apa yang telah disampaikan dengan apa yang saya teliti itu sangat berhubungan, karena tadi saya mendengar beberapa kali mengenai tentang problematik sosial media use. Yang berikutnya saya ingin menyampaikan hasil dari penelitian saya, yakni terdapat hubungan negatif antara kecerdasan emosional dengan problematik internet use. Yang saya ingin tanyakan adalah apakah terdapat hubungan di antara kecerdasan emosional dengan kesehatan mental ini? Yang mana jika kecerdasan emosional ini tinggi, maka kita tidak akan terkena efek dari internet itu, yakni kesehatan mental. Ataupun sebaliknya, jika kita tidak memiliki kecerdasan emosional, jika kita memiliki kecerdasan emosional yang rendah, maka kita akan mendapatkan efek dari internet itu sendiri, yakni kesehatan mental. Bagaimana hubungan di antara keduanya? Lalu apa hubungan yang ditimbulkan seperti itu? Terima kasih.
Yeah, thank you for the question, Nico. The question in Bahasa Indonesia, I will translate the question, Nino.
Thank you.
Yeah, the name is Nico. Yeah,
Okay.
quite same with your name.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. The question is, Nico have research about emotional intelligence and problematic use. Yeah. And the result is the emotional intelligence is negatively correlated with the problematic use of internet. And the question is there any rule of emotional intelligence according to related to the relationship between problematic use and mental health?
Okay, let me just really quickly restate the question. So, if I understood correctly, then the question is about whether there are some mechanisms or, I don't know, factors that might explain why, I don't know, lower levels of emotional intelligence predicts internet use, problematic internet use, and why it is related to negative mental health. Am I correct?
Yeah, it could be moderator or any position of emotional intelligence.
Okay. Sure, I think that, to be honest, I must admit that I'm not very familiar with the literature of emotional intelligence in relation to technology usage, so that's more like my guess at this point. But given what I know in terms of negative predictors of problematic use, and the theories that typically explain this relationship. I think that for me, emotional intelligence would most likely be a moderator, because this is something that, of course, you can train on and improve, but this is also something based on which people differ. Right, and I think that for people who are have lower levels of emotional intelligence, let's say, they might be more prone to use social media problematically, because emotional intelligence, by definition, means that you need to have quite good self-awareness and quite good understanding of yourself and needs as well. And I don't think that this is the case when you have lower levels of emotional intelligence. So therefore, I think it might certainly lead to problematic use, or act as a moderator between, let's say, transition between non-problematic or healthy use and more problematic and healthy use. Let me know if this answers your question, or if I misunderstood you, Nico.
Yeah, thank you, Nico and Nino, for the answer. Any other questions? Yes, please. I think 1 and 2 more questions.
Okay. Hello, Nino. My name is Pratita, and I have some question. But first of all, I would like to introduce that I'm a content creator on TikTok. And sometimes I got lots of negative impact, because as we know that we can't even handle it. So do you have any tips for me how to keep my mental health of the social media? Thank you.
Yes, please, Nino. She is a content creator.
Thank you so much for this question, and it's very interesting for me. Like, I love talking with people about their social media use, because we are all experts to a certain degree, right? Because we all use, and I think your case is quite unique, because I think that content creators face different kinds of problems and challenges as well, because if I understand correctly, then it's more like a professional even level of engagement that you have on TikTok. And I think that there are certainly tips and tricks that might be helpful, and I could even maybe send you related presentation or slides if you are interested, and you could distribute it, what to do in those cases, because I think that it also depends which aspect makes you especially uncomfortable or impacts your mental health. But I think that there are certain strategies like limiting the exposure on TikTok, limiting time that you spend on TikTok, trying to, let's say, unfollow or hide content creators or users that really affect your mental health negatively, or just, these are like more technology related things. Then there are other things that you can do, and we always encourage people to do, because sometimes problems on social media are not perceived seriously, but these are the problems that you need to talk about with your friends and loved ones, and these need coping just as other problems in our lives need coping, right? Even if it's offline or online. So always try to communicate this with other people, and always try to kind of have a different perspective. And just as a general advice, I would say, try to pinpoint or figure out what aspect, what specific feature, what specific kind of piece of information makes you feel bad on TikTok, and then try to handle that specific issue. If it's like you are spending too much time, try to limit the time. If again someone is toxic or being toxic, then try to just block this person. If it's about replies that you get, for instance, and I know that sometimes people can be extremely mean on social media because they are completely disinhibited, and just because they don't know you in person and they don't talk with you in person, they can say things that they would never say in face-to-face, right? So if this is the case, and if you are getting some ugly comments on your content or things like that, you can do multiple things, because it's like on the border of cyberbullying then, right? And then there are like different, let's say, protocols and different ways to handle this situation. First of all would be to just, again, try to block these people, try to communicate this also on TikTok that it's not the way to go, and report these people, and maybe, I don't know, like also try to understand that social media and internet is like a place for also a lot of people to be nasty and to not take it very personally, you know? So there are a lot of things. I can go on and on and on, and I could just send you the slides in the hopes that it will help you. But yeah, I understand that it can be tough on social media.
Yeah, thank you, Nino, for answering the question and giving some tips and tricks for the content creator today, Pratita. I'll take 2 more questions, if any. Yeah, please.
Thank you for the time. Let me introduce myself. First, my name is Rahadin. I want to ask about the social media. Is so many issues inside the media, like the information of politics, the information of something not important to us. I just want to ask, is that any effect for us to remind if we keep scrolling and keep seeing this news, and then like actually it's not important to us, but sometimes we just think about it and get overthink about the news, and we just like think a lot about it. And let me ask one more time about, if we see right now so many content creators of young adult share information about education or something about psychology of healthy or something like that, I just confused to choose one of them, which is one of them was the valid information that I can accept. Besides, 2 of them sometimes fight each other, like they are arguing about their opinion and his opinion. But sometimes when I see the comments is like not really helping, just talk about like you stupid or like something like that, just like a toxic comment. Is not helping very much. So I just confused to choose one of them, which is the valid information that I can accept. Thank you very much.
Thank you for this question. I think this is something or some sort of problem that we all face, because I have the same problem, and I think a lot of people can relate to that, because of course fake news is a real thing, and it spreads mainly through social media. So I also sometimes, like, especially when it's like a war ongoing or some sort of crisis, you have these trolls and bots, or just people, real people who have very strong opinions. And I can tell you like what you can do in terms of checking fake news versus real news, because there are like specific tools developed where you can just check if it is a true information versus not. And if you just Google for this fake news tools, you can find this. Of course, this does not help with everything, because sometimes you just don't have real information also on these websites and tools. What I try to do, to be honest, is to either double check, triple check, I don't know, go to the lengths to verify this information as much as I can. If I can't, then I just try to refrain from believing because it's really difficult. And I will give you two examples. Like the first one was when the war started between Russia and Ukraine. And this is, again, like a perfect time when people are just have very strong opinions, and a lot of misinformation and disinformation flies around. And at some point, I was just, like a victim of propaganda myself. And then I had to really step back and reassess whether the information that I believed in was true or not. And I think this is like the exercise that we need to do daily, unfortunately, because information is everywhere, and this information, just because it's posted on social media, does not mean that it's true or correct. And it's just, your daily reminder that before you believe in something, before you react on something emotionally, try to verify as much as possible. And indeed, comments will not help, because in comments, you just have people who agree with the poster or who just, judge the poster and say that they are dumb, stupid, whatever. So just, try, like, for me, it's even like something very scientific that you need to verify every piece of information, almost every piece of information, through different sources, credible sources. And if they all converge, then there you go. But otherwise, I really don't know how we can handle this huge amounts of and waves of misinformation. So I don't know if it's helpful.
Yeah, thank you, Nino. It's for answering all the question from the audience today. It's very interesting discussion and productive discussion we have today. I think the students still have a lot of question about the social media, but we have limited time to. Any questions? Yeah, the last. And there's question from our Vice Rector, please, Dr. Soekardi.
Of course.
Thank you, Nino. I have one question for you. As we have known, the politician now is growing up with social media. They got some popular in mostly any survey and getting the voters to reach the power. Maybe you can make comment. Why is the using of social media in most politicians tend to manipulate some information? Thank you.
Thank you very much. This is such an important question. Really, I think that first of all, for politicians, of course, it's like an easy way to reach out a lot of people, right? And now they don't really need to rely on media and their favors to spread the word. And again, if we go back to the example of Donald Trump, I think that he really managed to get a lot of followers and therefore voters from posting on Twitter and being completely unfiltered because people liked it somehow. And he is also very famously known for distorting reality and manipulating people also on social media, right? But there are also other politicians that do the same, and they become insanely popular and they get a lot of voters because of that. And I think the appeal is that on social media, you, of course, have even less nuance, right? than you have in typical political speeches or campaigns or something. You just post something, you just share some out of context post or something, and people go crazy and they don't care about nuance, because social media is really not a place, we will agree all that, is not a place for deep discussions, for depth, and for, like thinking. It's more like just a superficial communication. And I think that politicians know that, and politicians know very effective strategies how to use these channels. And I think that even if we go back to Barack Obama, and I'm sorry, I'm only giving you these American examples, but these are like very well studied and very well known examples. I think Barack Obama was really the first one who really manipulated or used social media for gaining popularity, and it worked very well. And I think that a lot of politicians are now following in his footsteps, but making things even worse, because I don't think that Obama actively spread fake news, for instance, but others do. And they just, get these followers because people like show, people like the entertainment, let's say, and they are providing this. I guess that would be one aspect of it. Thank you.
Wow, what a very excited discussion we have today regarding mental health and social media, and also about the politics and social media. That the question from our Vice Rector today. Give applause for our Vice Rector. Yes, thank you, Nino, for answering all the questions today and the very insightful discussion we have today. I hope we all can take message from our lecture today that social media and mental health is not it's really complex correlation or association that it depends on many factors when and why social media impact our mental health. Yeah. So that once again, thank you, Nino, for the lecture today. Give applause for Nino for the presentation.
Thank you so much. And if I may just say thank you so much for having me. Like, I'm genuinely very happy that I had this opportunity, and I enjoyed talking with you. I enjoyed the questions a lot, and I'm very grateful for such a big audience and happy that so many people are interested in this. So thanks a lot, really. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. And then I will give the forum back to our Master of Ceremony, Ibu Delawati Supraba.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Untung Manara. So, dear participant, we have come to the end of this enlightening and informative lecture. I hope you all have enjoyed and benefited from the presentation and discussion of our distinguished speaker. I would like to thank Nino once again and for her valuable contribution and for making this lecture a success. Please give a big round of applause to everyone here, okay? Okay. As we conclude this event, I would like to leave you with a quote by Mary McCracken. She's an author, actually. Mary said that almost anything can become a learning experience if there is enough caring involved. So I do hope that you all audience in here care so much about what Nino has presented today. So it become a very, very learning experience that could change you in your everyday life. And I wish you all the best in your future endeavors and hope to see you again at our next event. Thank you and have a great day. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Baik, untuk audience mohon untuk tidak meninggalkan tempat terlebih dahulu. Kami akan menayangkan untuk link presensi untuk nantinya mendapatkan sertifikat. Mohon diisi selama 10 menit ke depan ya, dan tidak usah difoto ya untuk di-share ke grup kelas atau apapun itu. Terima kasih.
Thank you, Nino, for the lecture today. We would like to leave the Zoom. We
My
hope we
pleasure, and yeah.
see you. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you, and have a great the rest of the day.
Bye. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
I hope the discussion today not the last, and I would like to invite you later on,